With that, our next bill is Assembly Bill 162, which establishes a statewide database and internet website for certain criminal records relating to domestic violence. So, Assembly Member, I will give you all a few moments to settle in. And then again, please remember, everyone needs to introduce themselves. And after you state your name, to please spell it for the record. And then when you are all ready, please proceed.
All right. Good morning, Chair Miller, Vice Chair Marzola, and members of my favorite morning committee, the Committee of Judiciary. For the record, my name is Toby Yurek. That's Tobyyurek, and I have the distinct pleasure of representing Nevada's Assembly District 19. I really appreciate the opportunity to present AB 162 to you this morning, a bill that we hope to have recognized as Alessandra's Law. This bill is about equipping people with the tools they need to protect themselves, something that directly impacts public safety. Meeting new people has never been easier. Whether through dating apps or social media, relationships can form quickly, sometimes without much background or context. But what happens when somebody unknowingly becomes involved with a person who has a documented history of domestic violence, a history that isn't easily accessible to those most at risk? That's exactly what happened to Alessandra. She was a young woman with a bright future who unknowingly got involved with a man who had a history of domestic violence, including a prior attempted murder here in Reno. She had no way of knowing. 2 weeks after breaking up with him, he took her life. Had she, or even her family, been able to access the information that this bill attempts to provide, they might have recognized the warning signs and been able to take action. That's why this bill is important. Alessandra's Law creates a statewide database allowing individuals to see someone they're dating and whether they had multiple domestic violence convictions. It's not about imposing additional punishment. It's about transparency and public safety. Today, you're going to hear from Michelle Afshar, Alessandra's best friend and board member of the Alessandra Foundation, who on behalf of Alessandra's parents will share their family's heartbreaking story. We will also hear from Katrina Esparza, a survivor from here in Northern Nevada who was targeted by this same perpetrator. And finally, we're going to hear from Liz Ortenburger, the CEO of SafeNest, who will speak on the cycle of abuse and the ongoing threat that is posed by repeat offenders. And then I will conclude with a short section-by-section overview of the bill before we address any questions that the committee may have. So, Chair, with your permission, I would like to turn the microphone now over to Michelle.
I've never done this. Michelle Afshar, Michelleafshar. Good morning, Chair Miller, Vice Chair Marzola, and members of the committee. My name is Michelle Afshar, and I'm here today not only as a member of the Alessandra Foundation, but as Alessandra's best friend. She was my sister in every way that mattered. And losing her to domestic violence nearly 10 years ago shattered many lives. But since then, we have fought to ensure her story is not just one of tragedy, but one that sparks change. For nearly a decade, Rick and Diane Beatty have dedicated themselves to shining a light on the dangers of domestic violence. They have traveled to courtrooms, legislative chambers, and communities across the country. They're sharing Alessandra's story and fighting for laws that could save lives. They have never hesitated to stand before lawmakers, no matter how painful it is to relive their daughter's murder, because they believe in this work with all their hearts. That's why it's especially difficult for them to not be here today. Due to a medical emergency, they were unable to travel for this hearing, and something they would never miss under any other circumstances. They have asked me to stand in their place and read their statement to you now. Their words will follow. Good morning, Chair Miller, Vice Chair Marzola, and members of the committee. My name is Rick Beatty. My wife Diane and I are the co-founders of the Alessandra Foundation, created to honor our daughter Alessandra Barles, who was brutally murdered by her ex-dating partner in October 2015 in San Jose, California. We moved to Las Vegas from San Jose in 2021 and are deeply grateful to Assemblyman Yurek for collaborating with us to bring forward AB 162, Alessandra's Law. It is our hope that this legislation will protect other families from facing the unimaginable loss that we experience. Why we need this legislation. The man who murdered Alessandra, now serving a life sentence without the possibility of parole, had previously attempted to kill another dating partner in 2009 right here in Reno, Nevada. She miraculously survived that brutal attack and thankfully is here with us today. Unfortunately, neither our family nor Alessandra had any idea of this individual's harbored such a violent history. He never disclosed his past, and in the absence of any accessible tool to uncover domestic violence convictions, we were left entirely in the dark. By the time we learned of his criminal record, Alessandra was already gone. I can't say with certainty that an online conviction database or record portal would have prevented Alessandra's murder, but I do know it would have given us and her circle of friends vital knowledge. Alessandra had already broken up with him and was preparing to move on with her life. She had just been accepted to Samuel Merritt Nursing School 3 days before she was killed. Lured under false pretenses to an apartment in San Jose where she believed she would be repaid money he had borrowed, she was attacked and left for 3 days while he fled. The Alessandra Foundation. Diane and I have a strong faith in Jesus Christ, and from the very beginning, we felt guided to turn our grief into action. About a week after Alessandra's passing, I felt the Lord prompting me at 2 a.m. to create a foundation in her name, a foundation that would carry on her vision of serving others. Alessandra's name means helper and defender of humankind, and we are determined to honor that calling. Our work has 2 main focuses, education and advocacy. In 2023, we collaborated with Texas Representative Victoria Neve Criado and Dallas Police Chief Eddie Garcia to develop Texas HB 5202, which established a public-facing database of individuals twice convicted of domestic violence. That legislation passed with overwhelming support. When my wife and I met Assemblyman Yurek at a Las Vegas chamber event, we shared Alessandra's story and the success in Texas, and we soon began drafting a Nevada version of that law. With guidance from the Nevada Coalition to End Domestic Violence and Sexual Violence and numerous service providers, AB 162, Alessandra's Law took shape. Our request. On behalf of my wife, Diane, the Alessandra Foundation Board of Directors, our extended family, and the many friends who loved Alessandra, I humbly ask for your support of AB 162. Passing this bill would provide greater transparency, potentially preventing other families from enduring the horror of losing someone to a brutal and senseless crime. Thank you all for your service to the people of Nevada. May God bless you and grant you wisdom as you deliberate this legislation.
My name is Katrina Esparza, Katrina Esparza, and I stand here before you today in support of AB 162, or Alessandra's Law. I feel compelled to share my story because the man who murdered Alessandra once tried to kill me too. I hope my experience helps sheds light on why this legislation is so crucial. If I can't have you, nobody can. Those are the words spoken to me by someone who I loved and I trusted, still echo in my mind. I was new to the area, and he was all that I knew. In hindsight, I see how isolated that made me, easier to manipulate, control. I was stalked as well. I tried to leave thinking I had finally broken free, but he showed up one night telling me more lies to earn my trust. Then without warning, he turned violent. He went in for a hug and started to stab me with the kitchen knife, strangling me and attacking me. I remember the blood and the sheer terror of knowing I might not survive. By the grace of God, I did survive. But Alessandra tragically did not. The difference might as well have been the ability to check his documented history of domestic violence. That is what Alessandra's Law would do. Give people free and immediate access to vital information about potential violent past. Domestic violence can help can happen to anyone, it's surrounded in shame, and many victims blame themselves for not leaving sooner or not warning others. This bill would help prevent future heartbreak by ensuring the young women and anyone else facing similar situations have the tools to protect themselves. If we can help one person avoid hearing the words, "If I can't have you, nobody can," it will be worth it. I respectfully ask for your support in AB 162. Let's all stand together, protect those who are isolated, vulnerable, and in need of life-saving information. Thank you.
To both of you, thank you so much for your courage to come and share your stories. We are deeply upset about both of your losses. To the parents, we extend appreciation for their advocacy and their courage as well, and hope that whatever situation they're addressing right now comes through on the positive side. And to you, a survivor, thank you for your courage. Both bear different wounds, and hopefully they can close a little more as time goes on. Your loss of safety and security is something that we do recognize. But thank you so much for coming forward and sharing your stories.
Thank you. Liz Ortenburger, for the record, CEO of SafeNest, and I echo Chair Miller's outstanding delivery of bravery that it takes to come forward in the face of domestic and sexual violence. I'm going to provide a trigger warning before I speak. I'm going to share with you 4 homicides from January 2023 in Clark County. Rachel Ruiz Izquierdo, 25 years old, killed January 4th, 2023 in a suspected murder-suicide with her boyfriend. Cause of death, gunshot wound to the head. Yanet Rivera, 41, found strangled January 28th, 2023 in her southwest Las Vegas bedroom. Cause of death, strangulation by choking on a foreign object. Shirley Williams, 56, found strangled on January 29th, 2023 in her southwest Las Vegas bedroom. Cause of death, strangulation. Ashley Benitez, 22, fatally shot on January 31st, 2023 inside her apartment after a fight with her boyfriend. Cause of death, gunshot wound to the neck. These are simply 4 homicides in Clark County in 1 month of the year. We know that we live in one of the most dangerous states in the country for women being murdered by men, and one of the most dangerous states in the country for domestic homicides in general. I, like these women and Alessandra, have no idea if the perpetrators had been prior convictions of domestic or sexual violence. Simply domestic violence. What we know about domestic violence relationships is they start out in a normal pattern. It's dinner, it's conversation, it's texting. And then that friendly text that said, "Please text me when you get home," becomes a text of, "Please let me know when you leave work. Please let me know when you leave the grocery store. Please let me know when you get home. You're not home on time. You're 5 minutes later than you're normally home." And slowly the walls of control close in around a survivor who started a relationship, falling in love, and having romance the exact same way that we all do. And then what we know is the most dangerous time for a survivor of domestic violence to be murdered is as they're preparing for departure or in the 0 to 12 months after they have left. Nevada remains one of the most dangerous places in the country for women being murdered by men, and domestic violence homicides in general. This bill gives potential survivors at least one opportunity to check upon 2 convictions, which, as your premier agency in the state, I don't know what that number is of how many convictions folks have over 2 years, but I will guess the number is relatively small. Because what we know is when domestic violence perpetrators are issued classes, there's a stay of charge. So if you take the 26 weeks of classes, you are not convicted of domestic violence. So the list of convicted domestic violence perpetrators that would be on this list are those that either did not engage in classes, did not complete the classes, and received 2 convictions within a 7-year period. These are our most dangerous abusers. Let's give potential survivors the opportunity to live, and let's pass this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Toby Yurek for the record. If you're good with it, I'd just do a quick overview section by section so that the committee has a chance to understand what's going on in this bill. Section 1 amends Chapter 179A of NRS to include the new provisions that are set forth in Sections 2, 3, and 4. Section 2, Sub 1 requires the Director of the Department of Public Safety to establish a statewide database within the central repository for persons with 2 or more convictions of domestic violence. Subsection 2 of Section 2 clarifies that the database must provide certain information about each person, including their name, date of birth, physical description, offenses, and punishment. Subsection 3 clarifies the database is public, but certain confidential information, such as social security numbers and victim identities, is excluded. Subsection 4 provides an internet website must be maintained to provide public access to this database information. Subsection 5 ensures the website must include information on the process for petitioning for the removal of information, as well as contact details for organizations that provide services to domestic violence victims. Subsection 6 allows individuals to petition for the removal of their information under certain conditions. Subsection 7 requires the director to consult with organizations that provide services to domestic violence victims and use existing databases where feasible. Subsection 8 provides immunity from liability for the department and for law enforcement agencies regarding the accuracy or disclosure of information. Getting into Section 3, it prohibits the use of information from the database for purposes related to loans, credit, employment, education, housing, or business services. Section 4 establishes civil liability for anyone that uses this database information in violation of Section 3. Section 5 and 6 offer conforming changes to clarify that public information from the database is not subject to dissemination restrictions and address confidentiality and public record statutes. With that, Chair, we are open and willing to address any questions that the committee may have. Thank you.
Thank you so much. With that, we will open up